Welcome to the Redevelopment Commission meeting of May 5th, 2025. We start the meeting with a roll call, please.
Lori McRobin, present.
C. Scamboletti, here.
John West here.
Deborah Meyerson here.
No.
Next, yeah.
Angela, you can't close the door. You can't close the door. Open door lock, sorry.
Okay, and we have staff present, please.
Anna Killian Hansen, hand.
Christina Finley, hand.
Tammy Caswell, hand.
Jane Coopersmith, Economic and Sustainable Development.
Angela Van Roy, Housing and Redevelopment. Jessica McClellan, City Controller.
Anna Dragovich, Economic and Sustainable Development.
Roy Aiken, City Engineering.
Zach Rogers, City Engineering.
Okay.
David Curley.
Thank you all. So first item on the agenda is the minutes of, we have an executive session summary for April 21st, 2025, and the minutes for that same day. If any questions or comments from commissioners, if not, I'll take a motion.
Move to approve both sets of minutes.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Next on our agenda is examination of claims register for May 9th, 2025. Do any questions or comments from commissioners?
Yeah, I have one question. Page 5. Vendor 204, State of Indiana. It's $189,000 to the state. Anybody tell me what that is?
It's from the First Street reconstruction project. Roy, do you want to explain why we're
Yeah,
paying the state?
I don't have the resolution in front of me, but about a year ago, we came to the RDC to approve the resolution for a change order for the First Street project. That was at $189,000. It had to do with utility relocations and delays for the project. So this is the city's portion of those costs that we had then pay NDOT, and then NDOT will pay the contractor through the contract.
Oh, okay.
It's a federally funded project.
Gotcha. So really the money's going to NDOT.
Yeah, they hold our money until the contractor does the work, and then they pay the contractor directly.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners on the claim register of May 9th? If not, I will entertain a motion, please.
Move approval of the claims register for May 9th, 2025.
Second.
A first and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And now we have a fifth. Next item on our agenda is the payroll register of April 17th, 2025. Do we have any questions or comments from commissioners on this register? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve payroll.
Second.
A first and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next, we'll please have report of officers and committees. The director's report.
Yes, as the governing body of the hand department, I have a number of updates for you, so bear with me here. As you know, we are an entitlement community and we receive an annual allocation for HUD funding for CDBG, Community Development Block Grants, and Home Investment Partnerships. Our program year runs from June 1st to May 31st each year. We have been notified that we will be receiving what our allocation is in the middle of May, so hopefully in the next week or two for our 2025 program year. Our consolidated plan, which we've been undergoing a number of efforts all year last year to get this plan put together, is now in a final draft state. It is going out for public notice shortly and will be available for public viewing. That consolidated plan is a 5-year spending plan for any HUD funding. This last weekend, the hand department had our first neighborhood cleanup of 2025 in the Waterman neighborhood. Each neighborhood cleanup collects approximately 6 tons of trash. And so it was a wonderful turnout, and just want to applaud my staff's efforts. Our next neighborhood cleanups are going to be in Sherwood Oaks on May 31st and Bryan Park in October. We are in the process of finishing out 7 homeowner rehabs, including emergency roof replacements, 2 accessible ramps, foundation repairs, 2 accessible bathrooms. We have 12 projects right now receiving home funds, 10 of which are for the development of affordable ownership, 1 for the development of multifamily units, and another for additional affordable rental units and an early learning center. We have 14 community development block grant physical improvement projects in process. If you have not heard the news yet, the administration, the federal administration did send its budget request for discretionary programs. And the request eliminates funding for the CDBG and home programs for 2026. We will find out what actually happens, but just keep that in mind. And then also want to report out that the treasurer, Jessica, and I and Dana have been working on the mechanics of creating a Hopewell TIF, and we'll report more on that soon.
Questions, say that again with CDBG and
So,
that bears repeating.
okay, yes. So the administration sent its budget requests out on Friday and to congressional leaders and appropriators.
By the administration, you mean?
The federal administration, yes.
Current federal
And we had heard the rumor, but it now is true that they are looking to potentially eliminate CDBG and home for funding year 2026. Now, I will say that that same administration proposed eliminating that funding every year from 2017 to 2020. So that didn't happen at that time. We don't know what's going to happen, but just putting everyone on notice that there may be some changes coming.
And that's physical improvement and
Social service, yes. We fund a number of social service agencies, yes.
Just for the record, do you want to say what the typical or let's say what the fiscal year 2025 allocation was, just so that people listening know what the impact is?
It's approximately 800,000 each year for CDBG, and then home is what,
Close to
around
600.
600,000 each year.
So 1.4 million combined
Mhm.
that we would be losing and either have to identify where reallocations of funds are coming from or do away with the projects.
Yes, and just to be fair, the administration did say that local governments and states are better equipped to administer these sorts of programs. So what that looks like, nobody knows. This is just the first sign of it, so I just want to make sure that everyone's aware.
Guess it's easy to say that with no source of funding.
Yeah.
Right.
My last question, just again, in terms of clarifying the impact of what you're describing, is you mentioned that there's 14 CDBG physical improvement projects in this fiscal year. How many social service projects do you have that number?
We have 14 projects going on from a number of years.
Okay.
Program years do carry over to some extent.
Okay.
Not everybody starts on time and finishes within that fiscal year. So I think that covers about 3 years right now.
Okay.
And then we will be awaiting for our allocation for 25 to see what our projects are for 25.
Okay, thank you.
So if you have a continuation of projects that are going over into another fiscal year, we would need to look at that from a budgetary standpoint of something that might be over,
No,
carrying over or not?
No.
Okay. So it would literally make sure that at the end of 25, going into 26, we would have those projects funded correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Any other questions from commissioners, comments? Next, we have a legal report.
Just like to mention also for those who may be watching or listening from online that the claim register was for the amount of $744,956.60. That was May 9th of 2025. And the payroll register was April 17th of 2025 for $54,680.32. And otherwise, I'm available for questions and on further resolutions.
Thank you. Do we have a treasurer's report?
No report for this meeting.
Okay, a business development update.
No business development update. Do you have a, do you want me to do the Hopewell?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. There's not a substantive Hopewell report tonight, but just wanted to thank commissioners for attending the opening, which was really a wonderful celebration of the Hopewell Commons. I've lost the other two items that I had in mind, but it's okay. There's not a substantial update. Staff continues evaluating responses to the public offerings and determining best steps forward, and that's it.
Is there a Dimension Mill update?
Just a quick one. Just want to give everybody a little bit of a heads up update. You know, there's been some interesting work going on at the mill lately that you're aware of with the facility itself. The city's team's been awesome in dealing with the southern wall issue. They're out there right now, well, not this minute, but they've been working on the shoring up the south wall with replacing some of the bricks and all the masonry work. It's going to take a while. So right now we're kind of offline on all event stuff in the mill, and probably will be for several more weeks. But you know, the team's been really good at helping us kind of get through all this. So we really appreciate the city support and how quickly your team's mobilized to make sure that it's a safe environment, which is goal number one. But then number two is get it back together as soon as we can. At the same time, for some of you, you'll recall that last year when we collectively, the Indiana University, Bloomington, the city, and the Dimension Mill were recipients of a fairly significant grant from the Lilly Endowment, Inc. A part of the funding that was available to the mill was look at how we could expand capacity, because we're pretty full. I mean, we have a strong growing membership, which is great. We have a wait list for small offices. They're in high demand. So in the grant, there was funding for us to look at how we might be able to expand some space. We even thought of, you know, doing a literal expansion, kind of a facility that would connect. But with some of the work on the south wall, it's made us really wonder if that's what we want to do. So we've engaged a local architectural firm to help us kind of reimagine some of the interior space. And we don't have any plans yet, but we will really soon. And we think there's probably some ways to do some rehabilitation of the interior of the building, which could expand space for more membership, but also maybe in some small offices. That would require, of course, getting approval of the Redevelopment Commission as the owner of the building on any of the plans that we come up with. But I wanted to just bring that to your attention now, because part of the thinking we're looking at is if we've got the event space, you know, offline for several weeks, and we're planning on doing some remodeling, does it make sense to kind of accelerate our timeline so that we don't disrupt programming twice, but maybe make it a longer disruption, but when it's finished, we have a expanded capacity and a really nice facility. So that's some of the thinking that's going on right now, and we hope we'll have some plans to share in the coming weeks. We believe we have, you know, hopefully this won't come back to haunt me, but I think with the grant funding we think we're going to be in good shape to be able to handle this, and we're not expecting the city to put any more money beyond what you're doing right now with the southern wall to accommodate this expansion. But we think it's an exciting opportunity to, you know, really reimagine that interior space in a way that might be even more functional than it is now.
Does this require any, at least communication with, if not negotiation with the Lilly Endowment? I mean, I remember when that first came
Yeah.
through, there was a plan to expand.
Yeah, we'll, certainly want to do
Right.
that and coordinate that with the IU grant office, and we do regular reports to the endowment on our updates, so that's something we would want to communicate early with them as well. But we don't want to get ahead of our skis since you all need to approve anything we do in that regard. But we think the planning that we're doing is actually going to not only meet the endowment's expectations, but actually exceed them in terms of what the goals for that funding were. Any other questions?
I know that the wall that's out of plumb is at the opposite end from the offices, but how are tenants doing?
Oh, they're doing great.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean.
So they're not,
No, we've got one office. If you know the space, there's a company called Digital And that are in one of the offices that's on the southern wall, real adjacent, closest to the event hall. So we've worked with them to basically give them full access when they need it to one of our conference rooms, conference room 108, which is the biggest one, and basically said, if the noise gets too much, that's your space. And we'll just let them operate out of the conference room. They've been really good, and we've tried really hard to make sure that we stay in communication with all of them. The noise right now really isn't that bad. But as they move from the western edge of the wall and start going east, it might get to the point where, for them, they may want to decamp into 108. It's hard to do heads down work or conference calls when you're.
Thank you for that report.
Sure.
I'm just checking if we have a Hopewell update or if what Ms. Cooper Smith gave
That
us
was
was.
it. I mean, it was
okay.
effectively.
Just wanted to
No
confirm that, so, thank you. Okay, so we are moving on to new business. Our first resolution is 25-53, approval of neighborhood improvement grants. And we have Ms. Van Ruy here to speak with us.
Thank you. Angela Van Roy of the Hand Department Neighborhood Services Program Manager. The Neighborhood Improvement Grant Program is designed to empower neighborhood groups to provide funding opportunities for residents to address neighborhood concerns and special needs. The funds provide for neighborhood-driven projects with neighborhood-wide benefit. This year we had 3 applications with funding requests totaling $21,995. I would like to thank this year's 5-member grant council for their time and dedication to ensuring the integrity and continued improvement of this important program. They are Deborah Meyerson, representing the RDC, Marianne Dorsey, representing Park Ridge East Neighborhood Association, Tom Payne, representing the Near West Side Neighborhood Association, Cassie Rooney of the City Department of Public Works, and Maria McCormick of the City Engineering Department. On behalf of the Neighborhood Improvement Grant Council, I respectfully submit the following funding recommendations to the Redevelopment Commission for your consideration. The Bentley Court Community Association requested funds of totaling $9,067 to establish a wildlife corridor along Winslow Road. The half-acre project runs alongside the city sidewalk bordering Bentley Court from Rogers Family Park to the Sherwood Oaks subdivision. The corridor will feature a diverse mix of native trees, perennials, and deer-resistant shrubs, creating a thriving ecosystem that supports pollinators, birds, and endangered species. Bird nesting boxes will be installed to aid native bird populations, and educational signage will inform residents about the importance of native landscaping and habitat conservation. This funding request represents the first of a 3-year project. This phase of the project will focus on development of a comprehensive plan with the help of a professional landscape designer and removal of invasive trees. The second request comes from the Blue Ridge Neighborhood Association. They requested $2,928 to enhance the existing wrought iron gate at the neighborhood's North Walnut Street entrance by adding the words Blue Ridge. The project is in keeping with the Neighborhood Association's ongoing efforts to enhance the visibility and identity of the neighborhood. And the final request is from the Prospect Hill Neighborhood Association, requesting $10,000 to hire restoration professionals to repair Rose Hill Cemetery headstones and monuments that are too difficult, fragile, or large for volunteers to handle. 5 workshops will be led by Monroe County History Center volunteers to teach members of the public headstone restoration techniques and skills. And for your information, the Prospect Hill Neighborhood Association has received neighborhood improvement grant funds in the amount of $25,340 over the past 2 years for similar work.
Thank
I'm
you
happy to
for
take any questions.
your leadership on this neighborhood improvement grant program. It's a terrific program, and I really appreciate the opportunity to participate on the committee and just really admire the neighborhoods that have brought forth these projects to improve their community. So thank you for leading that. Any questions or comments from commissioners on this resolution? If
Just
not, I will take a motion.
Clarification on the amount, which is something in the order of 22 grand
Mhm.
total across these 3. The 2025 budget not to exceed $30,000, and you mentioned that this was the first of 3 that's what I lost.
No,
I'm sorry.
we had allocated up to $30,000 for the program. We had 3 applications, and the total request of all 3 was only $22,000. So we didn't get as much money as what we had allocated for it. Now, we do have other projects that are happening. One of the things we are doing this year is offering a 3rd neighborhood cleanup, as Anna mentioned. Typically, we do 2 per year, and this year we're doing a 3rd one. We also have coming online this year a trailer that will be for use for neighborhoods, filled with all the equipment and supplies needed to do a block party, a neighborhood pop-up event, a community event of some kind. It will also be for use by city staff. So that's another thing that we're investing in. So some of those funds can be reallocated. Still for neighborhoods, but not for this particular program.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Thank you.
welcome.
Yeah.
As you said, on the Bentley Court, this is the first of a 3-year part.
Mhm.
So depending on where the funding comes in, their intention would be to come back and ask in a future time.
Yes, they will be coming back. Their plan is to come back the next 2 years to continue, yes.
And when we look at this from an allocation of the neighborhood participation, it's good to see the percentages that neighborhoods are participating from a financial standpoint, not only from the other end of it.
Yeah, there is a requirement of at least a 10% match
At least
for the
10%,
program.
and they've exceeded that on every one of them.
Mhm.
So hats off to the neighborhoods in regards to that. And then when we get to the Prospect Hill and Rose Hill Cemetery, I don't know if anyone here ever goes up there, but as we look at it, you know, the restoration of those particular headstones and what we see as a city-owned burial site also happens to go off with the historical basis of our community as a whole. You know, as a young man walking through there with my mother, and you see the families and the ones that helped build the history. And I don't know if everybody knows Hoagie Carmichael is buried there. And when we look at the maintenance of it, while the families may be transient and move on, the final resting place and the security of making sure what the History Center does and those volunteers absolutely makes that cemetery a little jewel in the middle of our community. So I encourage people to walk up and look. It's also a very peaceful place to kind of calm down. So
Just a note about that particular cemetery and the work that has been done there for a number of years. There is interest in the White Oak Cemetery as well, which is in the near West Side neighborhood. And Tom Payne, who is one of our council members this year, is on the Neighborhood Association for Near West Side, and is very, very interested in trying to get some resources to that cemetery as well to do some work there. And so one of the things that we've requested from Prospect Hill is to invite the Near West Side Neighborhood Association to come and be part of their training sessions, so we can get some more of those people involved in that process to hopefully get some interest from that neighborhood as well for the future.
appreciate all your hard work on that.
Thank you.
I'll also just quick add just something that I'll kind of nudge because it's going to go back to hand in terms of the administration of the program is right now the program is essentially open to neighborhood associations to apply for funds. But when we talked about the rehabilitation of the gravestone sites, certainly larger, more established, certainly Rose Hill Cemetery is important and prominent in the community. But there's many other smaller cemeteries that would certainly benefit from that, but might not have a kind of invested neighborhood association that can easily head that up. However, because the Monroe County History Association has been an active partner in this, just looking at maybe if potentially, again, up to hand to kind of navigate this for maybe next year or future years, if a local nonprofit that works closely with a neighborhood that may not have a full-blown neighborhood association could nonetheless partner to apply for these neighborhood improvement grant funds, so that in this case, for example, smaller cemeteries that again would benefit from that kind of attention could be shared elsewhere. There may be other examples, but that was the context in which that came up. So,
Would the History Center be able to allocate, as Deborah put it, something of that nature in regards to?
Well, that was the proposal, was to potentially open up the funding to other, not neighborhood associations, but groups that are working closely with a neighborhood group. Maybe not a that doesn't have a neighborhood association that's well established and organized, because they just don't have the capacity for it. So that's something we can certainly look at. I'm
Just didn't know how
happy
to
to
fall into
explore
grant
it.
applications. So.
yeah, it just would potentially open up, again, up to hand to decide if that's a feasible way of administering it, but just it could perhaps spread the funds to more widely in the community, because not every neighborhood has the benefit of a strong enough neighborhood association to apply for administer a grant. So, whereas there may be nonprofits that's part of their business that they can support neighborhoods more widely and use these funds to help do that. So,
Question. This is maybe for engineering, going back to the Bentley Court project, does this tie in nicely with what all engineering and or the street department's doing there? There's a ton of reconstruction.
Directing that at me, I think it put me on the spot a little bit. I'm sorry. Maria McCormick is on that commission, so she's kind of representing the engineering. I'm not familiar enough with it to answer, sorry.
I can tell you from the perspective of the neighborhood that certainly is something that they was sort of the impetus for doing this, because they're seeing that there's major improvements happening along that corridor, and they want to make it all look much nicer than what it does now. So there is a patch of a lot of heavy invasives along the slope between the sidewalk and the road, and now that the road is being redone and there's curbing, they've adjusted the location of the sidewalk at the entrance of their neighborhood, and so that's going to affect some of the landscaping there, and they just thought now is a great time, once all that work is done, to then come in and really make it look really, really nice. So yeah, they're doing it in concert with that, and working with the urban forester and the city landscaper to make sure that they're doing things the right way, and planting the right kinds of trees and things like that. So this was really, Deborah can tell you, very impressive, very, very, very comprehensive. They'd really done their homework. That project.
and it's a multi-year effort, so
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Mm-hmm. Same.
And one more question, this is between the sidewalk and the road?
Yes.
Okay.
So in the right of way, yeah.
Is there any, and maybe this is a question for the city mayor or the engineering department, whether there's any plan to improve the sidewalk and potentially get rid of the stairs? Make it very hard to ride your
That
bike.
has been a very hot question. Yes, the neighborhood is interested in that as well, and I can tell you I have asked around as much, and the answer is no. There is no plan to make any changes to that.
It's awfully steep grades.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta go through the park, gotta cross up
Yes,
Sherwood Oaks, come
yes.
back around.
Yeah.
Serendipitous route.
Yeah, it works, but.
It's hard.
Yeah.
If there are no more further questions or comments from commissioners, I invite anybody online or in person for public comment. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion on resolution 25-53.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2553 as presented.
Second.
We have first and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item is resolution 25-54, which is an approval of an amended engineering contract for Hopewell West. It looks like we have Mr. Ayton here to speak to us on that.
Good evening, Roy Ayton with City Engineering Department. So this is a portion of our infrastructure project for the Hopewell West. This is the Jackson Street and the alley section that's adjacent to the core building. In April 2023, the city, through RDC, hired Crossroad Engineers to do design work for that project. This addendum that is in front of us this evening, this is for some additional survey work that'll go with that design contract. And what we're doing is we're creating a pedestrian easement along Rogers Street, the east side of Rogers there, for the property that Centerstone is located on. And the sidewalk kind of juts over into their property and comes back out. We want to put that in a pedestrian easement and also improve their ADA accessibility right there. So the addition to the contract agreement would be an additional $1,000 for that survey work, for a final contract amount of $797,640. The only other thing I'll add is that project's getting near to going out to bid. I think in the next couple weeks we'll actually bid out that portion of Jackson Street and the Rogers and the alley, and then our construction's anticipated to start in August for that project.
Any questions or comments from commissioners on resolution 25-54?
Roy, based upon the additional survey records that's necessary to do this, the dollars that's gonna take to do the physical improvements after this work is done, will that be inclusive of the bid that's going out, or will that be an additional cost that'll come into Hopewell in the future?
It'll go into the bid. That's it. This is the design consultant that's putting together our bid documents, so we will incorporate it into this project.
Even though it's off-site of Jackson Street, it'll still be an incorporation of
Yeah,
that
it's
particular project?
Jackson Street and, that whole project's going out with Jackson and the alley, but also improvements along Rogers Street, which was a requirement of the Topo West subdivision. So it's part of that section.
Okay, thank you.
Is all of this still eligible for reimbursement through the Ready Grant?
This portion wouldn't be. I think the only portion that is you may know more than me though. The Jackson Street, this inside Hopewell West area.
My understanding was that we were a little bit under budget with the original scope for that, and I think some of those funds may be available, so we can follow up on that. I can help.
I think we may have to follow up. I'm not absolutely sure.
Worst case scenario, it could be an alternate on the bid.
If there are no further questions or comments from commissioners, I'll open it for public comment. Seeing none in person or online, I'll entertain a motion, please, for resolution 25-54.
I'll move approval of resolution 25-54.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is resolution 25-55, approval of a temporary lease agreement with the Weddle Brothers Building Group. Who would like to speak to that?
I'll take care of this one. Weddle Brothers is doing the construction of the Bloomington Convention Center expansion, and they would like to have a nearby construction office, and they would like to use some of the property at 200 South College Avenue. So staff has negotiated a temporary lease with them that would permit them to do that, but it would be based on what their needs are and space availability that may change from time to time as things, that site is possibly looking at the Convention Center Hotel project, and so there's a lot going on. And so I have written this to be very flexible on the RDC side, to where if staff believes that there's plenty of space, they can have what space they need. If there's restrictions on space, they'll tone that back. And so what they would do with the resolution, what you're saying is that you're approving the lease that was on attachment A, and that the president of the redevelopment commission could sign that on behalf of the RDC. It's also authorizing staff to determine the space that Weddle may occupy at the property from time to time, and is authorized to sign an attachment to the temporary lease agreement describing what portions of the property they may occupy at a given time. and to execute any and all documentation necessary to do that. There would be no rent, however, they will be taking care of the common areas. They'll be taking care of snow removal, and they'll be taking care of landscape and lawn and utilities and those things, so that, and that's kind of a good trade-off. You don't have to maintain the property as much anymore. You're turning over them because they're going to be there. They're going to have equipment nearby. They can take care of things as it needs to be taken care of. And so again, it's written to be very flexible, and it also has a 30-day termination clause. If the RDC feels that other needs are present, then with 30 days they can terminate the lease.
Thank you for that presentation. Any
Just a
questions or
quick
comments?
question, because I read this but may have missed it, includes security for the entire
It's
block set, property? Or just for the building, or just for what they were using?
As far as security, it does not require them to bring in outside security to monitor the property, but they'll have to make sure that the building stays secure and that all of their things stay secure.
Right.
But there's not a camera security system or anything like that.
We don't have that now.
We don't
Yeah,
have that
that's
now.
part of that.
That's, I wasn't sure
Yeah.
if we had any
Yeah, it's
concerns there.
not available at the site, so
Yeah,
it's not
okay.
included.
Then the parking you're talking about, the south parking area is where they're gonna have, they're going to utilize, the rest of it will still be utilized for the existing tenant that we have and for city parking.
Yes, there is a lease for 9 spaces that has actually been looked at, and that goes, there's an area that they can use as part of that that's listed in that drawing. And so what I put in there was just to restrict Whittle. They cannot use the spaces that immediately are adjacent to College Avenue, nor the first 6 spaces immediately adjacent to 3rd Street coming down from College. So, because that's the area where the other tenant could go, and that's like 25, 26 spaces instead of 9. But that way also there's room for city and others, so they can use those other spaces, but they will have to make sure that our other tenants have what they're supposed to
Yeah,
have.
because we still have a tenant at that particular point right now. We need to make sure that if we're meeting all of our obligations on them. With that, in the rest of the parking, is that monitored by the city, or is this going to be from a liability standpoint that Weddle Brothers will identify that? And
As far as what part of the property they use, it will be up to Weddle Brothers, but it'll also, one of the things that the department will do is work with them on how many spaces they need to allocate what it is. So it's not only what part of the building they can use, it's what part of the parking lot they can use, but in no way can they use those 1 spaces that were called out in the lease because of the contractual relationship with another party, and wanting to make sure that the city, for our people doing inspections and things like that, and with everything going on, have plenty of place to park. Yes.
Dana, this exhibit isn't intended to show what part of the building they're going to lease, correct?
No, it is not, and that will be negotiated with the department, and that is out of the lease for the parking contract. That's not part of theirs. That is just tied in so they can see what spaces were called out in the narrative of the lease that they should not be occupying.
But we are, I think, based on prior conversation, we're going to keep them to the south end of the building, correct?
Yeah,
That's
was
still the plan.
my understanding, yeah. And
Well, there's no reason why you can't.
At 200 South College, there's a number of solar panels that are being stored, and there's also storage for some of city, like I think some of our rental files are being stored down there as well. So it will be based upon how quickly we can get it out of the way.
so the department and Weddle will go and draw up an exhibit that says what part of the building they have available and what part of the parking they have available. And again, that can change from time to time as the department feels that it is necessary, the RDC feels is necessary.
Well, I guess I'm just reminding everybody that what we agreed to was the south side, so if that's gonna be modified, I think we should have a conversation. And then the only thing I'll just mention, you've got Lee Carmichael as the tenant rep, but I think he
Yes, that has
retired.
been, yeah, that is, they let me know that Friday, and so the one that's for signature has Mr. Bruce on it.
Okay.
Question in regards to that, just where we're dealing with the south side of what we agreed to in the beginning. So they didn't essentially stay out of the old bunker side where our legal services is at the present moment. Where are we at on our movement, solar panels and things of that nature? Because I was curious in regards to it, because those solar panels, RDC's paying for part of that long-range project. So just trying to identify, A, what's happening with them, and then B, is Weddle Brothers going to assist so that it doesn't become all the city's responsibility to move things?
Well, regarding the solar panels, we had some movement on a sale, and I believe our Assistant Director for Sustainability, Sean Mia, was working with the Controller's Office on
How to put that.
how to offer that asset up. We have to go through the asset disposition process, so we actually had a potentially interested buyer ready, and so I'm requesting an update on that now, but that was the most recent.
Well, and on that, Jane, just to ask, as we look at that long-range financial
Yeah.
requirement that we committed to in regards to, if there is an asset disposition, will that allocation of those additional asset allocation dollars be prorated back to the different commissions and departments?
I'm happy to ask that question.
It may be a Jessica question, but.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Based upon the solar that was done a few years back, we distributed part of a good portion of those to different departments and parking, redevelopment and such. So since we did have some additional left over, and we're gonna have an asset disposition of that, which should allocate us a little bit of funds, it won't. Will those be allocated back to the different commissions and parking boards on a pro rata basis, or will that just go into kind of the general fund and be done?
Well,
And I'm only asking that because I know.
not a full answer to the question, but what is being allocated is our bond payment.
Right,
So the bond payment isn't gonna change.
right, that was said.
So the bond payment is based on the cost of the panels the panels that were used by different departments and the cost of those panels and the cost of construction to do like roofs and other kind of improvements. So all of that was put into this giant spreadsheet and allocation was come up with, back in 2017.
Right.
So the panels that aren't being used, I think were not included probably in that allocation.
Okay, they were just,
So-
what we call attic stock.
Yes,
Okay.
added stock and for like future use, like as things come up, we're solar ready and that would have changed. I think that might have changed the allocation a little bit if we had used those panels. So my best guess is that no, it's not gonna change the allocation.
Can we use those proceeds to pay down on the bond? And I have
Yes.
no idea what kind of money we're talking
Not
about.
much.
Yes, the proceeds were there, but I'm not sure if ESD had any other plans for those proceeds.
No, I don't think we anticipated that it would come back to ESD. I think we wanted to just find a functional future for those assets and
Yeah.
free up the space.
Mm-hmm.
So if we
Yeah.
find functional, if someone in the community can find a functional utilization of that in order to offset energy costs, that would be the preferred method for the community.
Well, it's tricky because this is why the single buyer that we had identified was an ideal partner, because the disposition of those panel by panel would be really challenging, even though there are probably a number of people who would be interested in them in the community. Doing a piecemeal distribution of the panels still leaves other installation and other expenses related to the panels for individual homeowners, say. And so we found a buyer who uses these panels as replacement and could use this volume. And so it was just a really
Good.
nice situation. But we have to make sure with the controller's office that we're above board with the disposition and sale of that,
disposition
that
and
asset.
sale.
The other
Yes.
thing too is that as these panels are aging, technology changes, and so it would be preferable to get them out. And, right, instead of just piecemealing, which may take longer.
I
So
do.
you wanna do one asset sale and be done.
But for these reasons, I do have concerns about being able to get them out of the space in a timely manner. And so I think that's why we were pushing for a little bit of flexibility in the lease and where to place Weddle. So I just want to be really honest about that being a challenge for us at this time.
I agree, and there's multiple departments storage down there as well, which may be a challenge to try and hit. I think their start date is what, June, so logistics wise, it's gonna be complicated.
But financially, it should be pretty simple because we're selling an asset that was purchased with a bond. And so we're gonna receipt that revenue back into that bond fund. You know, we do fund accounting, so that's how we separate everything. And then we can use that revenue, we can use bond proceeds to pay off a bond, like if we didn't use all our bond proceeds. So it's going back into the bond proceeds fund, and then you can directly just use that to pay off a bond payment.
Yeah, that seems like a great.
Yeah, straightforward, very straightforward, cut and dry.
Yes.
So that part will be easy. And they'll get the disposal of assets part figured out, and that should be easy. It'll just be, the timing will be perfect.
And
It
I'm
has to be
happy-
perfect.
I'm happy to report on this again next time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
There are no further comments or questions from commissioners. We'll open it for public comment, looking online and in person. Seeing none, I will invite a motion, please.
I'll make, ladies first.
Move approval of 2555, temporary lease to Weddle Brothers.
Second.
We've got a first and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next on our agenda is Resolution 25-56, which is approval of a lease at the Forge with K23 Films Incorporated. Who would like to speak to that?
Thank you. Context here. You know, when the Forge was really originally designed, the operations were going to be handled by a separate entity that was envisioned in the earliest drafts of the EDA grant. And then as the city and the mill got together and came up with a plan to just extend the work we were doing at the mill to take on management of the Forge, the staff office that was part of the design for the Forge became really unnecessary. We don't need a staff office at the Forge, at least not in the near term. So, as I mentioned earlier, you know, we don't have any small offices available at the mill. There's a company, the K23 Film Group, is really it's like the holding company of multiple startups that a gentleman runs. He moved here from Boulder, and we're really excited about the work that his group is doing. And as he was looking for space, we didn't want him to leave the Trades District. He's an active part of the community that we're trying to build. So we proposed leasing the staff office and generating some additional revenue. There's no tenant improvement requirements because it's already built out, so it's pretty much a turnkey operation. Since it is a small space, and we didn't want to enter into a really long-term lease. So what's before you is just an annual lease with 3 options to renew at a year each. The rest of the financial terms are the same as our standard leases, so it's the $21 a square foot plus cams. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I hope you all can support it. I think it's a interesting opportunity to just generate a little bit more revenue, but importantly keep a company in our little community that we're building that has a lot of potential to help other companies with the work they're doing. A lot of their clients are other startups, as well as their own startups So it's a pretty dynamic little group that I think is going to add a lot of heft for, probably a 4-person team that'll be in that space.
And it's built, ready to go?
Yep,
They could literally move in and start paying revenue, be the first revenue paying tenant.
yes. The plan is a June 1 start date because they're currently in Europe doing some work for one of their clients, which interestingly is a rocket company.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners on resolution 2556?
I don't have any questions about the lease. I know that's a shocker. What about who is the film? I mean, what do they do? What's the film company do?
They do a lot of creative marketing work. That's one part of what they do. Luke, who's the CEO, is involved with this French rocket company as well. So they're doing a lot of footage right now. But they do a wide range of clients. He's also got a company that has built and is marketing lighting for the fashion world. So it's a pretty broad portfolio. Yeah.
Okay.
If there's no other comments from commissioners, I'll open it for public comment. Not seeing anything in person or online, I will invite a motion for resolution 2556.
I'll move approval of resolution 25-56.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The last resolution on our agenda this evening is resolution 25-57, ratification of services provided and for payment thereof to Nature's Way. Who's going to speak to that?
I will do this one as well. Nature's Way has been working with the Trades District for a number of years now, and they started off at $40,000 a year. In the last couple of years, it was $44,000. Their agreement was set to expire on December 31st of 2024. City staff and Nature's Way have continued operating under that expired contract terms, while arrangements are being made by city staff to procure landscape maintenance services in a manner consistent with the operations of the city of Bloomington. As part of Nature's Way services for 2025, Nature's Way has invoiced, the invoice being attached to the resolution, the RDC in the amount of $9,643.90. And so this would be to, since the contract had expired, to ratify the services that have been provided, saying that you find that they are expenditures that are appropriate use for available funds, and find the services provided serve the public's best interest and ratifies the same, and that you approve the payment of the invoice at the amount stated, and authorize staff to execute the documents necessary to effectuate the purposes of the resolution. Again, they've been operating without a contract, utilizing the same building that they have been using for the last couple of years. I actually have scheduled a meeting with the Controller's Office and others to, I'm new to the procurement process, and I'm wanting to make sure that we're doing this the way that we need to. And so I've got meetings scheduled to try to get that done here pretty soon. But this is just to take care of what they've done this year.
Okay, so this will bring them up to speed. What are you going to do from this day forward?
Until they, we get a new contract in order, we're continuing to try to just honor what we already have. Again, I've talked with Public Works and with RDC folks and others, and it seems to be that there's some nuances to the way things are done with the city of Bloomington, and so I'm just wanting to make sure that I don't put something out there that's not appropriate. So it's just taken me some time since I just got on board to get that process under wraps.
So to make sure, just qualifying Dan, this catches up to date.
Yes.
It's growing season, it's raining.
Yes.
So everything's gonna grow and needs to be maintained. And-
Right.
And since we're responsible for the outward look and the trades district as a whole, we're not going to have a discontinuation of services
Right,
as we
until we
move
get
through
something
this, while we're going
positively
through
resolved.
the proactive steps of contractual obligations through the city's procedures.
Yes.
But I just want to make 100% clear for us and everybody that sees the trades district that it will maintain the integrity and quality that we've established.
It very much will, and we're definitely trying to make sure that the Public Works and the RDC stuff is kept separate for billing purposes, so that everything is, you can tell what's going on where, what's being billed for what. So we're really working hard, and I know that Han's been all over that, making sure that things are laid out appropriately. So this is, I just want to work with J.D. Borf when I can to bring benefit to the RDC, but also want to make sure that what is going on at the trades district is the quality work that the trades district needs to stay in its premier condition.
As at the present moment, it'll just be a monthly allocation accordingly with the current contractor, is that?
Yeah, we're working on a number of agreements, service agreements for this year, that will be coming before you, on RDC properties to help separate them out so that it can be very clear exactly how much we're spending on what and not getting it intermixed, so.
Which brings me to one question on the trade district. Are the roads accepted into the city's inventory, or aren't they?
That's a really good question. I don't,
They are. I thought that was.
Well, the reason I
Sorry, city
asked that,
manager.
and again, I was late, so I didn't have the opportunity to ask questions for the snow plowing. Was that sidewalks or streets? I just had to ask. There was a $3,900 bill for snow plowing.
Yeah, and in the trades district?
Was
Yeah,
that sidewalks and
there's a
such?
large area of sidewalks in the
Okay.
trades district, so Public Works maintains the streets.
Okay, that's
Nature's
what.
Way is not.
No, I knew Nature's Way wasn't, I just I knew they wouldn't be the people
No, it's a
doing it.
good question.
I
I
just
didn't
did not
understand.
know if, given the forge and what had to be done, if there was any possibility that those streets had not been done, but if they've been done, that's fine, not a problem.
sidewalks are the responsibility of the adjacent landowner, and because the
And we are the
RDC
adjacent
is the
landowner.
landowner, that makes you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, if there are no further questions or comments from commissioners, we'll open it for public comment. Seeing no one online or in person, I will entertain a motion, please, for resolution 55-20, sorry, it's not in front of me.
2557.
Move
Thank
approval
you.
of resolution 2557.
I'll second it.
We've got a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. And we're now on to business general discussion, part of the agenda. Anything that would be useful to introduce at this moment on the
Do
agenda?
we need a quorum check for the week that you'll be gone or anything else?
Yeah, I will be out May 19th, so just maybe check and see what other commissioner status is for that date.
I'll be on Zoom.
And I'm gone.
So,
And I've got a flight coming back that day. If it's on time, I'll be here.
You might need to look at that then. We were also anticipating a possible executive session on that date, so we may need to regroup.
But no matter what, we can't have a quorum. We
We
can't
wouldn't have a
an
quorum
in-person
because we have one.
Right, so we may need to shift dates is
Okay.
what I'm saying. Maybe an off-scheduled meeting or
Okay.
not on.
I would friendly request that we do that sooner rather
Yep,
than later.
yep.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll do that offline. Anything else for business general discussion? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Bye.